Okay, here we go again. We're going to start over. My battery ran out there. This is going to get really interesting, the last two. One of them is the most obvious, one of the most obvious choices, but probably not the most obvious pick. A few of these I've done live. There's probably tons of live. Like, I couldn't say the greatest solo because there's so much live stuff out there. If I include that, it would be impossible to know what was the best solo. I couldn't listen to all the every live, even if it was available. It would be impossible. But we're going to jump into our number two. So our number 2 and 1 are going to be interesting for me because one of them is going to be very obvious, and the other one, I feel like most everybody has slept on this person. But I'm going to say the number 1 is not going to be someone you're expecting, and I am 100% sure in my book that this is possibly the greatest solo in the history. And for reasons that I feel like, just as far as what a compositional good improvised solo could be, this guy just goes off the charts. And so I'm going to leave it there, but we'll get into it later. But for the second one, we're going to go into a pretty obvious player who's well known, probably in the top 3 guitar players of all time. But I want to pick a song where I just feel like he encapsulates, what a good solo could be. And this is going to be a live one. There's a bunch of other studio choices that are probably on everyone else's list, but let's do this one. So here we go. Number 2.
Right now, I'm going to try to do it. This instrumental for you, just for a second. Just see if we can get ourselves back together again for a second.
Try to get back to your get yourself together here. See if you can get that energy. There we go. There's solo 1. Let's see. they've already had like two peaks where he was just pushing the ceiling. Now we're dropping down again because I think they're coming up for their final blast off. Okay. So, yeah, obviously, this was from, let me put in, yeah, so this was from a Paris recording, 1968, and there were, there's two other versions, I think, or at least one of the versions of the BBC of Driving South, which I just love. Yeah, it's crazy that they weren't on another album, but I think even Curtis Knight took credit as writing the song, but as I'm going to play you a quick little bit here, this is the original here. This was actually, I didn't realize this until years later, to hear the main head of the song. So this was Albert Collins doing the song called Thaw Out. And this is where Driving South basically derives from. Yeah, once I heard this, I was like, oh, that's Driving South. Okay, here we go. Bam, bam. Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, and the BBC, that's probably my second favorite. It's much cleaner. It's a little bit faster. Everybody's balanced well. And it's a great solo by Hendrix. But it's one of my favorite just sort of blues, fast blues by Hendrix doing as far as covers go. But the live, they did Driving South very few times from what I could see live. Like less than a handful of times, maybe 3 or 4 times, if that, on live albums. So when I heard this version of it, I was just like, wow, it's slower, it's a little groovier, but he just goes ape on it, and it's just like monstrous. Plus the amount of power just playing those single notes that he gets, I was just like, wow, that's so much wattage just pushing through that one note. It sounds so thick and strong. And but yeah, always loved that version of Driving South. I mean, as a solo, I love it just because it's like when the energy is just going through the roof. But as a song as a whole, yeah, there's a lot of low points. They get point where everyone's real quiet and they're all just sort of just kind of like Machine Gun, just playing very, very minimal stuff between Mitch Mitchell and Jimi Hendrix. But once they start ramping it up, it goes really fast. So I put it in that category of one of my favorite solos. I think one of the best solos of all time, even though it's not, compositionally, you could certainly say you can look at a handful of other solos by, the Steely Dan guitarists, by, Steve Howe, obviously all the standard guitar players that we know of that play very exciting solos. But Hendrix, obviously, he's going to be put in the list. And I think normally they would put like All Along the Watchtower or maybe Voodoo Child, all of his solos are wonderful. I just wanted something that was a little bit more forceful, and I think to go live you have to find his stuff where he's really just going all out on just power alone, and so that's where I went with this one. This one was from Olympia, Paris, 1968. As I said, not a common live performance choice. This is one where Jimi Hendrix has the troubles and strife of 2 years on the road, plus the pressures of becoming superstars boiled over in 1968. This was their third concert at the Olympia as conquering heroes, with Axis Bold as Love high in the charts. So again, now we're going to get into Hendrix. Obviously known very well among being the top guitar players in the rock field, but we've covered a few different fields. We've allowed, guitar solos to enter into all different pathways, which, has to be noticed when we talk about great guitar players. Obviously, if you're going to say that, then allow guitar players of all, stripes into that field. So this last one, we're going to, this is one that once I heard it, I was like, this has to be one of the greatest solos I've ever heard. And he's playing with some great people, so it's not unlikely that you're going to hear something exceptional. So again, I'm not going to throw up the name right away. Let's just jump right into it. So this is, in my opinion, in the top 10, and I'm putting this at the top of the list, although these could fluctuate, but I'm going to put it in the top 10 regardless. And for now, I'm going to think of this as in the top 10 of what I consider to be one of the greatest solos that I've ever heard. And here we go in the final one. Let's do it. This is monstrous. Okay. Daryl Stuermer with Jean-Luc Ponty. Jean-Luc Ponty, electric violin. We know Daryl Stuermer on electric acoustic guitar. Patrice Rushen on electric and acoustic piano. Yeah, I forgot. I didn't know she was on this. I forgot. She's become notable to me as far as other people that she played with, and she had a R&B hit in the early 80s, I believe, but I've also seen her some of her earlier bands that she was playing with, and yeah, she's amazing on keyboards, electric piano. Tom Fowler on bass guitar, and Norman Fearington drums and percussion. So again, Daryl Stuermer, yeah, this came out, did I say that? Yeah, 1975. About the same time Alan Holdsworth with Soft Machine released anyway. So yeah, obviously we know whoever's playing with Jean-Luc Ponty is going to be a complete package type of player. But honestly, whereas Alan Holdsworth, I feel like they're kind of like stark differences between Alan Holdsworth, who also played with Jean-Luc Ponty, I think on a later album, Enigmatic Oceans. Yeah, I think the one after this. Yeah, but very different players. Alan Holdsworth, very like seamless, very legato style, like lots of hammer-ons and pull-offs, very smooth transition. Whereas this guy's lines are not that. They are, I feel like he was doing those runs and moving up, and the movement was crazy with this guy, but I could hear him. It was not legato. He was playing every note, but it didn't sound like it was, jarring or separated. It still sounded super clean. Yeah, I'd be wildly curious to know how he played, how he came up with these solos that he was playing on, how much he thought about them beforehand, worked them out to some degree, because there's no way this could be improvised. He had to have some idea, because it was so similar to like a Django. If it was just spontaneous, I would put him in that category, because there was so much variety, so much I would say development in this piece. There's so much development and so articulate in the clarity, and that's why I have to put this one. It's up there with the very with the Steely Dan solos, just very complex and very compact and very much like wonderful nuances, throughout their solos, and it took them, whatever number of times and different players to find the right one that they wanted to encapsulate in that particular song. But just, yeah, great voice, great vision in those solos, and very impactful. So I'm curious about how this one with this band, because obviously this is with, this is not a rock band, pop band, fusion band, or fusion. This is not a, like Steely Dan. This is much more like, whereas Jean-Luc Ponty can improvise, to this level. So I'm curious with Daryl Stuermer. He went on later to play with Genesis. But yeah, I'd never heard this. I was like, for 1975, I have to put this up there. That was just an amazing solo. like in all respects. Anyway, in the early 70s, he was playing with Milwaukee-based jazz rock band called Sweet Bottom, playing 5 gigs a week. During one of those gigs, 1975, the keyboardist George Duke, then with the Mothers of Invention, noticed him and suggested his name to jazz violinist Jean-Luc Ponty, who was looking for a guitarist to join his band. After a successful audition, he became a full-time member and is featured on 3 of their albums from 1975 to 1977. Aurora, Imaginary Voyage, and Enigmatic Oceans. So, yeah, Alan Holdsworth, I have to look back, did play on one of those same. I think he was also on Enigmatic. He shared guitar duties with Daryl Stuermer. So that would have been an amazing couple of guys to like see each other, seeing themselves and the others, what they were doing, because just amazing players. But yeah, very different, very differentiated as far as their style and how they probably played. So in addition to Ponty, he played on George Duke's solo album, and then later on in 1977, from assistance of friend bassist Alphonso Johnson from Weather Report, no slouch for a friend, was recommended as a replacement for Steve Hackett to support Genesis for live performances. And then a chance meeting with drummer Chester Thompson, who later replaced Bill Buford as their touring drummer in 1976, convinced Stuermer to go for audition and landed the spot on the same day. So, 1975. Daryl Stuermer on Aurora 2 from Jean-Luc Ponty. So, yeah, I mentioned a lot of the sort of typical, and I've seen on other channels, it's like very stereotypical, great solos, I get it, but what's the context? You get a 30-second solo, you go through the verse and chorus a little bit. I can find agreement with a lot of these songs, but obviously I was trying to let's get past that. Are there ones that are being left out? I know Alan Holdsworth for, got dangerously not considered among some of the great guitar players of the past 50 years. For some reason, I think George Benson also got left off of some of the great guitar players. It's like, okay, not very credible at all. So, what did we have? Among all the greats, obviously, great guitar players of the time, I agree, I could do another top 10, but I'd put these up there. So we had Vernon Reid. Obviously, among rock players, there's going to be a bunch more. I could do top 10 of rock, and you got Van Halen and Richie Blackmore and Jimmy Page, Steve Howe. Maggot Brain, and I've heard it. I love Funkadelic, but that one would not be on my list. I think that one's just all over the place, and it's not very inspiring in my mind. Same with Limelight for Rush. I could think of 10 other ones that I would rather choose than that one. So there was a bunch of other solos, obviously, that an honorable mention that I would, could equally be represented in this. I want to definitely include some slower material and be like this to kind of stretch the boundaries of what makes a good solo. So at the end of the day, it could be a host of things. It could be the energy. It could be the compositional choices. It could be the tone. It could be one tone, a very one-trick pony, or it could be somebody that utilizes a lot of different guitar playing skills and techniques. So I'm trying to hit across the board some of the solos, and that's what, in the end of the day, that's what this video is meant to sort of fulfill, be valid for, and basically showcase that. Let's look at the whole ability line. Let's look at the whole diversity of playing styles, that can put it, make it effective in being one of the greatest guitar solos of all time. So at this point, I'll have to springboard off of this and let everybody sort of, have a viewpoint. What did you like about or not like about this list? What would you say who belongs in this list, in this style? And I can sort of maybe encapsulate that. If everybody agrees, there's going to be some people who always gravitate towards this solo or that solo. and I'll definitely start to incorporate that into another video where we can explore other solos and ideas of, why this one belongs on a list. Not for the fact that we need to choose and pick what's the best and this and that, but I think objectively, it's a subjective listening experience, but at the same time, there's going to be objective takeaways that we get from all this, from listening to music, that we all objectively believe that and accept that these guitarists are among the greatest and have exceptional ability, but it's the way that they connect with each other. That's how they connect with us. We all connect from a player's, the way they play, what the voice they're putting out there. We all feel that. So again, I appreciate you all being here. This was a really long one. I'm going to chop this into maybe at least 3 segments probably. I might do it into 4, but I want it to flow. I want people to feel like it's they're getting enough out of each, that they're really benefiting from it. So again, I appreciate you being here. The next one we're going to do, like I talked about maybe doing the Alan Holdsworth was taken from a Nucleus song that didn't have a guitar on it, and the Jimi Hendrix Drivin South was written by Albert Collins, Thaw Out. So I'm going to do some other original songs that were typically not as popular, did not get the recognition, did not get the ears listening to it to recognize the greatness of the song. And I'm going to do songs that were originally written by other people or performed by other people, that their covers got much more popularity, got much more play in the time that they were recorded. And so I'm going to go back and look at some of the originals, and I'm going to do ones that specifically I feel like they got lost in the shuffle, and they really hold up. So we're going to do a top 10 of those also on the next set of episodes. I think that's going to be really fun. It's going to be really fun to hear some of those, because I had a lot of fun hearing some of those, and I haven't listened to them all on the way through. I just know that there's ones that deserve recognition, and so it's going to be really cool for me to hear some of those, and very surprising, because anytime you take something out of one genre and hear it in another in a different voice, it's always like, what is going on here? So I think it's going to be a really fun one. So anyway, I appreciate you all being here. Really love to hear from you. And let's keep this going. Let's get all different types of topics, and keep exploring, keep digging. Anyway, have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.